Welcome to Shadow Files. We face the impossible. The vanishing of Architect Zero, the world's most secure man. Zero designed the future from his custom bunker, the Citadel, a fortress immune to intrusion. His final project, Elysium, was due for reveal at midnight. He vanished minutes before. The Citadel uses biometric locks, thermal scanners. Security logs confirm Zero unauthorized access. At 11:50 p.m., the Aegis team breached the single airlock. Inside, nothing. A cold coffee cup, humming ventilation. Zero was gone without a trace, without a struggle. This wasn't crime. It was physical impossibility. The first clue, a tiny shard of titanium polymer alloy, material used only in high-altitude orbital satellites. Why orbital debris in a subterranean bunker? More disturbing, the central console displayed a cryptic symbol, a circle with 3 spokes. Input logs show Zero drew it at 11:47 p.m. His final, silent message. Zero's true identity was Dr. Alistair Kalin, a forgotten genius obsessed with dimensional theory. He applied physics to architecture, engineering spatial reality. This vanishing wasn't accident. It was experiment. The Sentinel logs revealed that at 11:46 p.m., Zero manually deactivated all major biometrics. Self-sabotage. He was facilitating his exit. The Elysium blueprint was the key. It wasn't a city design. It was a complex energy conduit system. Its geometry matched Kalin's dimensional shifting theory. Zero wasn't building a city, he was building a portal. He didn't vanish from the Citadel. He vanished through it. Part 1 confirmed Zero built a dimensional gate disguised as Elysium. To open a breach of that magnitude requires a catastrophic power source. We traced the Citadel's sublevels. Beneath a false vent, we found it. A small, illegally licensed fusion reactor. It was designed for one instantaneous, devastating burst. The reactor logs confirmed the spike. 11:47 p.m. The exact moment the symbol was drawn. The pulse caused the security feed flicker. But where did the portal lead? The symbol wasn't a destination. It was a lock. The 3 spokes represented 3 astronomical coordinates. The Orion Spur, the Triangulum Galaxy, and a distant stellar nursery. Zero calculated a precise harbor. But why the satellite alloy shard? That material is used for navigation guidance, suggesting Zero didn't trust his own coordinate math. We found proof of his fear. A log file in the reactor's memory. T-7-day test. 7 days prior, Zero attempted a shift. Catastrophic failure. An explosion that melted the chamber, scattered debris. The shard was shrapnel from that failed test. Someone or something was sent through 7 days prior and destroyed. Zero knew he was entering a death trap. The next critical clue. The person who funded the reactor and the test subject. The Shell Corporation traced back to a single name. Lena Kalin, Zero's estranged sister. A brilliant astrophysicist herself, who vanished 3 years prior. Lena Kalin, Zero's sister, was the financial backing for the entire operation and likely the test subject in the failed jump. Shadow Files found her last research project. The mathematics of time-dilated dimensions, realities where time moves slower. If she succeeded in shifting, she could be alive, having experienced only moments while years passed here. We needed her final message. We targeted her last known research terminal. Her file was encrypted with a high-level cipher. After days of analysis, we broke it. The password was startling. 3 spokes. The exact symbol Zero drew. Lena's message was a warning. She confirmed the instability of Zero's math. The triangulum constant was one of the 3 astronomical coordinates. Zero ignored the warning. He used the symbol not as a lock, but as the final, fatal input. The most disturbing word, Hungry. What was hungry? The dimension itself? Lena's files detailed the dimension's primary characteristic. It required an equal exchange of energy to sustain mass within its borders. That translates to mass transfer. If zero stepped in, something massive had to leave it simultaneously, or he would be instantly compressed or disintegrated. The failed test 7 days prior wasn't an explosion. It was the failed materialization of the returning mass. It was empty. Zero didn't just ignore Lena's warning. He was relying on the hungry dimension's appetite. He knew the dimension required an equal exchange. When Zero went in, something massive had to come out. What did he swap his life for? We returned to the Citadel. The security team missed something elementary. They scanned for a physical person leaving. They never scanned for what entered. That flicker wasn't just a power surge. It was the moment of materialization. Zero's biometric locks were deactivated, not to let him leave, but to allow the incoming entity to pass through the security grid undetected. Whatever entered didn't trigger the retinal scanner or pressure plates because it wasn't human. We reviewed the atmospheric sensor logs, previously dismissed as static. At 11:48 p.m., a massive, instantaneous drop in temperature and oxygen level occurred, a displacement event. An object weighing approximately 2,000 pounds and measuring 8 feet tall suddenly appeared. A specialized cleaning agent was applied to the floor. It revealed an impression, not a human footprint. This was a scorch mark consistent with extreme heat and weight. It was the footprint of the exchange entity. Zero traded his life, his human mass, for this silent, massive presence. And it was still inside the Citadel. Aegis's perimeter was useless. The danger was already within the walls. The Citadel Zero's sanctuary is now a cage for a massive, non-human entity. The exchange occurred 3 minutes before the Aegis team breached the airlock. The entity had 3 minutes alone inside the most technologically advanced facility on Earth. What did it do? We returned to the terminal. The Elysium blueprint was still open. The construction plans were complex, but they contained a hidden code sequence. The code was not for a building. It was for a highly sophisticated temporal locking mechanism. Zero didn't trade his life for a monster to be free. He traded his life to build his creation a prison. The symbol, the 3 spokes, wasn't the activation code. It was the deactivation code. Zero's final act was to draw the kill switch onto the console. If the symbol was entered correctly, the entity would be instantly shifted back to the hungry dimension. But what constitutes correctly? The symbol had 3 spokes. The symbol represented 3 coordinates. Zero's mind games persisted. Zero had built a containment field centered on the console desk. The entity was trapped in a small 10 by 10 foot area. Couldn't move, couldn't exit, but it was fully aware. This was Zero's genius, to trap the exchange and then provide the key to destroy it. But the Aegis team, rushing the scene, inadvertently contaminated the console, smearing the latent energy residue. The symbol's precise geometry was corrupted. They had the key, but it was broken. The Shadow Files team realized the terrifying reality. The entity is trapped, but potentially ready to break containment. The deactivation code is compromised. The energy drain from the reactor was massive, but the dimensional field holding the entity is rapidly degrading. Zero's clock is running out. We returned to Lena's warning. Do not use the triangulum constant. This was the missing piece. The 3 spokes represented the 3 coordinates. Zero's system required all 3 inputs to perform the shift. But if the triangulum coordinate was unstable, entering it would not send the entity back. It would release it into our world, fully energized. Zero's final message was brilliant. He didn't draw the entire symbol. He only drew the symbol that represented the correct, stable coordinates, leaving out the unstable triangulum spoke. The smeared console contained only two visible spokes. The triangulum spoke was never drawn. The Aegis team was about to input the complete symbol, all three spokes. That would be the catastrophic error. Shadow Files intervened just as the lead technician reached for the console. We provided the only two coordinates that Zero intended for safe return. The technician hesitated. A terrifying, grinding roar, deep and unnatural, from the direction of the console. The entity's containment field failed. A shadow 8 feet tall began to coalesce. The technician, in a desperate gamble, entered the two-spoke code. The roaring stopped instantly. The entity imploded into a point of blinding light. Zero's impossible trade was solved. He vanished into a time-dilated dimension. We saved the world, but we lost the architect. His prison, the Citadel, is now empty. The shadow files remain open,